Marcus checks his bank account at 7:14 in the morning, before coffee, before he's even out of bed. The number is fine. It's basically the same as yesterday. He knows this. He checked at 11:47 last night, too, right before he fell asleep, and at 3:22 in the afternoon, and right after lunch, just to make sure that sandwich didn't somehow break him. Marcus is not broke. Marcus makes $74,000 a year. He has a budget spreadsheet with color-coded tabs. He reads finance articles on his lunch break. By every conventional measure, Marcus is doing the responsible thing, and it is quietly destroying his ability to build wealth. My name is Nick, and on this channel we break down the financial psychology behind why smart, responsible people stay stuck, and what the data actually says you should do instead. If that sounds useful, hit subscribe. This one is going to mess with some habits you thought were helping you. Here's the advice you've heard your whole life. Track your spending, know your numbers, check your accounts, stay on top of it. And on the surface, this sounds completely reasonable. Of course you should know where your money is. Of course awareness is better than ignorance. But there's a version of financial awareness that quietly crosses a line. And most people, especially the responsible, anxious type A people, cross that line without ever realizing it. They stop managing their money and start monitoring it. And those two things are not the same. One is a strategy, the other is a compulsion. And the compulsion, it turns out, is making you worse at the actual goal. Let's start with a number that might surprise you. 36% of Americans check their bank account every single day. And that survey is years old. With mobile banking living in everyone's pocket, the real number today is almost certainly higher. Nearly 44% of U.S. adults avoided checking a financial account in the past year due to stress or fear. So you've got two groups, the avoiders, who don't look at all, and the hyper-monitors, who look constantly. And here's the thing nobody tells you. Both groups are struggling because both groups are being driven by the same emotion, fear. The avoiders are scared of what they'll see, so they don't look. The hypermonitors are scared of what they'll miss, so they can't stop looking. Different behavior, same root cause. And neither strategy is the one that actually builds wealth. Marcus is in the second group. He is meticulous, every transaction categorized, every balance memorized. He checks his account so often that he's basically watching money in real time, the same way someone might refresh a stock ticker they have no intention of trading. And here's what this habit is actually costing him, not in dollars, not yet, but in something more fundamental: cognitive bandwidth. Research in behavioral economics shows that when we experience financial stress, our cognitive bandwidth shrinks, making it harder to plan ahead, make sound decisions, and see the bigger picture. Economists Mullainathan and Shafir gave this phenomenon a name. They called it tunneling. The idea is simple, but devastating. When your brain is locked onto an immediate financial concern, it literally cannot process long-term opportunity at the same time. Tunneling directs attention to financial issues and neglects other demands, acting as a tax on mental bandwidth that interferes with executive functioning. Now, here's the part that should stop you cold. You don't have to be broke to experience this. Marcus isn't broke, but every time he opens that banking app, he is priming his brain to think about scarcity, about threat, about what could go wrong. And a brain locked in threat mode is a brain that cannot think about growth. He's not managing money, he's anxious about money, and those are opposites. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. Research from the University of Virginia and the University of St. Andrews looked at what happens when people check their accounts at different frequencies. They found that people who regularly check their accounts show around 60 to 70% less variation in their discretionary spending compared to infrequent checkers. So regular checking does help with consistency. That part of the conventional wisdom is right. But regular and compulsive are not the same word. Researchers at Georgetown University found that you don't want to get into the habit of checking your bank accounts every day and stressing about your balance because you can't control it. What matters is developing a good monthly practice of reviewing your finances deliberately.
There's a word for what Marcus is doing. Psychologists call it financial hypervigilance. It's responsibility that has slipped its leash and become surveillance. The nervous system is set to a higher baseline of alertness around money, meaning the brain has learned somewhere along the way that money means danger.
And once your brain treats money as danger, every financial decision, no matter how small, gets filtered through that lens. You're not choosing between a Roth IRA and a brokerage account. You're just trying to feel safe. Let's talk about what Marcus is missing while he's staring at his checking account balance. For the past 3 years, Marcus has been meaning to increase his 401k contribution. He's at 5%. He knows he should be at 10%. He's known this for a long time, but every time he thinks about redirecting money, he opens his app, sees the number, feels a low hum of anxiety, and decides now isn't the right moment. He'll do it next month, when things feel more stable. Except, things always feel exactly as stable as they did before, because he's always checking. Here's what that delay is actually costing him. If Marcus increased his 401k contribution by 5% of his $74,000 salary, that's $3,700 a year, and left it compounding at 7% for 25 years until he's 63, that's roughly $248,000 in additional retirement wealth, $250,000, sitting there, waiting for him to stop feeling anxious long enough to click one button. That is the price of financial hypervigilance. Not the coffee, not the subscriptions, the paralysis. Why does this happen to responsible people? Financial stress isn't just an emotional experience. It's literally rewiring neural pathways, changing how people think, make decisions, and relate to the world. When you experience chronic money worry, your brain shifts into survival mode, and survival mode has one job: keep you alive right now. It is not interested in index funds. It is not interested in compound interest or tax-advantaged accounts or long-term opportunity. It is interested in the number on the screen, in whether it is going up or down. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, constantly scans for danger and triggers your body's alarm system when it spots trouble. The problem is, it can't distinguish between a lion chasing you and a bank notification. So every time Marcus opens that app and sees an unexpected charge, even a small one, even one he can easily afford, his amygdala fires, his stress hormones spike, his cognitive bandwidth narrows, and in that narrowed state, he makes worse long-term financial decisions. Not because he's bad with money, because his brain is trying to protect him from a threat that isn't actually there. So here's what we've established so far. Compulsive account checking is not discipline. It's anxiety wearing discipline's clothes. And anxiety, when it comes to money, is actively expensive. But here's the part I really want you to sit with, because this is where it stops being just interesting and starts being actionable. There's a version of Marcus in a parallel life. Same income, same starting balance, same everything. But parallel Marcus made one different decision at age 35. He automated everything. His 401k contribution, automatic. His Roth IRA deposit first of every month, automatic. His emergency fund top-up, automatic. His index fund investment, automatic. He spent about 4 hours one Sunday afternoon setting all of it up, and then he deliberately checked his accounts less. Not never. Once a week, Sunday evenings with coffee, like a ritual, not a panic response. Psychologists suggest checking accounts at a scheduled time rather than impulsively because routines help prevent the anxiety spiral that leads to poor decision-making. That's it. That's the entire strategy. The money moves without him having to feel brave enough to move it. The investments grow without him having to watch them, and his brain, freed from the constant low hum of financial threat monitoring, has the bandwidth to actually think about his future. Remember what we said about tunneling. When your brain is focused on immediate scarcity, it can't process long-term opportunity. So the opposite is also true. When you stop forcing your brain to perform constant threat assessment, it starts to see further. You notice the conference you should attend, the side project worth starting, the conversation with HR you've been putting off. Not because you have more money, because you have more mental space. Let's run the two Marcuses to age 63. Both start at 35 with $18,000 saved, contributing $500 a month to their investments,
earning 7% annually. App-checking Marcus keeps his contribution at 5% of his salary indefinitely because he never quite feels secure enough to change it. His anxiety keeps him conservative. He ends up at 63 with around $420,000. Automated Marcus increases his contribution once from 5% to 10% at age 35 because automation removed the emotional friction. He doesn't have to feel brave every month. The system is just running. He ends up at 63 with around $668,000.
Same income, same market, same time horizon. $248,000 difference. Not because one Marcus was smarter, because one Marcus stopped treating his bank balance like a vital sign that needed constant monitoring and started treating his financial system like a machine that runs whether he watches it or not. The wealthiest people you know are not the ones checking their balances most often. They're the ones who built the system and then went back to their actual life. Here's the thing most finance content gets exactly backwards. It treats constant financial awareness as virtue. The more you track, the better. The more you check, the more in control you are. But control and monitoring are not the same thing. Real financial control is building a system so solid you don't need to check constantly. It's the difference between a pilot who trusts their instruments and a nervous passenger who keeps looking out the window to make sure the wing is still there. The wing is still there. You checking every 20 minutes doesn't keep it attached. The research is clear. Financial avoidance is a normal psychological response, but one we need to actively manage. The solution isn't to check obsessively and isn't to avoid entirely. It's to focus on trends rather than absolute numbers and to use scheduled financial check-ins rather than impulsive ones. Once a week, maybe once a month for investments. That's not negligence, that's the strategy. Marcus figures this out at 38, not 25, not 22 when the YouTube algorithms were serving him personal finance content at the perfect time. It's 38, standing in his kitchen, checking his balance for the 4th time that day, and suddenly asking himself, what am I actually looking for right now? He didn't have a good answer. So he set up the automation that Sunday, increased his 401k to 10%, set a Sunday evening money check-in ritual, deleted the banking app from his home screen so he had to actually search for it, and then he went back to his life. He didn't become a different person. He didn't suddenly have more discipline or more income or more financial wisdom. He just stopped letting his nervous system run his financial strategy. That's it. That's the whole game. Here's your one thing for this week, not 10 things. 1. Open your bank app right now, not to check your balance, but to do one of these. Set up one automatic transfer you've been putting off, or schedule a single weekly money check-in and delete the app from your home screen so you stop reflexively opening it 20 times a day. Then close the app, go do something else. Trust the system. The balance will be fine. It was fine yesterday, it'll be fine tomorrow. In the version of you who stops checking every hour and starts building instead, that version retires with $250,000 more than the one who didn't. The money doesn't care how often you look at it, it only cares what you do with it.